Hello and welcome back to another episode of Flicks and Dicks. I'm Travis.
I'm Mike.
This week we're going over the Count of Monte Cristo, 2002, directed by Kevin Reynolds, and starring
Guy Pearce, Jim Caviezel,
Richard Harris, James Frain, Dagmara Dominics, and that's not the last time I'm going to jack up her name, and Michael Wincott, which is a smaller role. And then, of course, we have Luis Guzman, which we're going to definitely get into that character, or that actor and character in the movie. But, of course, as usual, we're going to talk about the characters and then the actors, and kind of critique their performance based off of both of those. So, what's this movie about? This movie is about a young man falsely imprisoned by his jealous friend, escapes and uses hidden treasure to exact his revenge.
So basically the gist of it is, it's revenge.
It's a revenge movie, all the way. I've read this book, and the book is so much more. It's dry. It goes on forever, and there's some pretty marked differences between the book and the movie. Only because some obvious stuff. The guys are not friends. They don't know each other in the book.
I never read the book, so they weren't friends in the book.
And no, they were not friends in the book. And the Count of Monte Cristo, Dantes, he's so much more cold and calculating than he's portrayed in the movie. So I think the movie does a better job of humanizing him. So before we get into it, I do want to say I love this movie. There's a lot of problems with this movie, but I love it.
I remembered at one point having liked it, but watching it this time around, I really just couldn't wait for it to end.
I love this movie, and yet, as you're going to see as we go through this, man, there's some things about it that just infuriate the shit out of me. So let's go over the characters here. So we start off with Edmond Dantes.
Jim Caviezel.
Yep.
Gotcha.
All right, and Edmond is our main guy. He's the Count of Monte Cristo, and he is wrongfully imprisoned, as the synopsis went over, and he's a dumbass. He's a dumb ass in this movie.
He really is. I got stuck on how much of a dumbass they made him out to be. Was the book as bad as the movie?
No, not even close. But he has this confused look on his face, and I know that they're making a pretty pointed difference between pre- and post-imprisonment. But whoa, he's walking around with this stupid look on his face.
He looked like a country bumpkin.
So yeah, we got Edmond, who's playing the main guy, and then we have Fernand Mondego. And believe me, listeners, we're gonna jack up these names. This is a French movie. I mean, it's a French story. All right, that is to say, this takes place in Marseille, France, and we are gonna jack up these pronunciations. I'm not even gonna apologize for it. Okay, and then we have Abbe Ferreira, which is the guy who's
Dumbledore.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Dumbledore.
Noted thespian, Irish thespian, and he hails from the Harry Potter movies. He's also R.I.P. He has passed.
He died the same year the movie came out, about 10 months later.
I'll tell you what, you can really tell in his performance he was not well, but apparently he had a hard life, a real hard life. Not hard as he was impoverished. I'm saying he was living a very hard life.
He grew up a farm boy, and then went into acting.
And then
that was it.
Partied from there on out. I mean, partied hard. Okay. And then we've got J.F. Villefort, and he is the chief prosecutor. He's a magistrate in the beginning and the chief prosecutor towards the end of the movie.
Yes.
And he's also instrumental in plotting Edmond Dantes' demise. And then we have Mercedes Iguanada, I guess, and she plays, of course, the fiancée of Edmond Dantes at the beginning of the movie.
Who honestly was my favorite character in the whole damn movie.
Based off of what, her looks?
Everything about her was just believable.
Now, in terms of the character?
Yes.
Gotcha. And the others weren't?
No.
Well, we already said that Edmund just had this dumbass look on his face. And then when we're getting to the Count, we're going to get to him in just a second, but he's, yes, I'm the Count. So, and then we've got, right after Mercedes, we've got Armand Dorleac. Now, Armand is playing the kid. He's the son that we find later on in the movie.
Yeah.
He's the son of the assumed Count Mondego and Mercedes. But it turns out, spoiler alert, turns out, no, he's not.
It was a dead giveaway.
You think? The dark brown hair and the height, and he looks absolutely nothing like the Count.
Look nothing like Guy Pearce.
Look nothing like Guy Pearce. And then, yeah, so we already mentioned Guy Pearce's character, right? No, we didn't. We glossed right over that.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so,
Fernand
Mondego. What'd you think? No, the character.
The character from start to finish just seemed like a douchebag. The holier than thou, I have money, I'm better than you. And he played that, he did play that well, I guess.
That's one of the problems I have with the film. Fernand and Edmund wouldn't have been friends. This is a class system. And it was a convention of the movie, and they were not friends in the book.
They shouldn't have been friends.
No, there's no way. So they may have been acquaintances, but in the beginning of the movie, Fernand is playing the ship's representative.
Yes.
So that...
What did Edmund, what was his role on the boat?
He was first mate.
He was first mate.
First mate.
I thought that was the.
No. You're right. No. So the captain dies. Which we'll get into in just a second. But yeah, the captain dies. So Edmund must have just been a deckhand or something, just a higher level deckhand, though. Obviously, because he gets captain.
I guess. But it wasn't really established what his role on the boat actually was.
That's true. I didn't really get that from the movie, and I totally forget from the book.
I've forgotten most of the movie.
Okay, so yeah, but yeah, Fernand Mondego. So he's playing a friend. So in the beginning, they are trying to show that they're friends, but also implying that friendship, due to that class system, may not last. And then Edmund says, "Huh." Which is what he says in the whole first half of this movie. Huh? Oh, absolutely infuriating. And then we've got Jacopo.
Oh, Luis Guzman.
Yes.
Love that guy.
Yeah? You love him in this movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've liked Luis Guzman forever.
What else has he been in?
Oh, good Lord. He's done so many things. He was the gay guy in Anger Management.
Okay, gotcha.
He's done some hardcore gangster kind of movies as well.
And then we've got the more peripheral characters like Luigi Vampa, which played he's the lead pirate.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which I thought for the contribution to the story, he was instrumental in a number of things that Edmond Dantes puts together
Almost
later
definitely.
on.
But
yeah.
the friendship was just, I guess, supposed to be assumed.
What friendship?
Between Edmund and the pirate.
So, what about the performance of Jim Caviezel playing Edmond Dantes? What'd you think?
I thought he did decently. I would assume that you've got the director standing back, telling him, okay, this is how you're going to do it, and this is what I want you to portray.
We know he can act. We saw him in Passion of the Christ later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know he can act.
He can definitely act.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can think of, and Guy Pearce can also act. Memento.
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord.
No, I love him in Memento.
Everybody in the film can act, and they do their job very, very well. But all that I can think of as far as, what happened here is the director, okay, this is what I want you to do. This is how I want the audience to feel when they're watching this. And it just was bad.
It was, and I think I totally agree. I think that comes down to direction.
The only really exciting part of the movie was the opening, where for a moment I thought that I was watching Goonies.
That's right. Yeah,
that little swashbuckler bit on the beach. I totally, for a second, thought that I was watching Goonies.
Do you know what? I think if we put that music from Goonies side by side with that music from that opening sequence, it's got to be either. If it's not the same composer, it's gotta sound almost identical.
I think that you could yank the music from Goonies and replace it with, replace the music from Count of Monte Cristo with the music from Goonies, and it would fit perfectly.
That's hilarious. Okay, Richard Harris, in terms of the Abifair. And he played, of course, the jailmate, cellmate. He's not really cellmate, but
he was
in the aisle, the Chateau
d'If.
He was in the Chateau d'If. Yeah, it comes out of the floor like a little gopher. And I thought he gave a very good performance.
Oh yeah,
I loved it. I actually really enjoyed it. There were aspects of it that I'm sitting there watching, and I completely believed it. Even when they were stretching it, sitting there going, "Oh, we're coming to these conclusions, methodically and all that." I'm like, yeah, they're very obvious conclusions, but I still loved his performance. I really did.
Oh, I thought it was great. I think overall my problem with the whole thing, it could have been good. I mean, the actors were there. I mean, you had talent right there, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, he's definitely underutilized, but appropriate for the role, I think. All right, so what about James Frame playing J.F. Villefort, the prosecutor?
Again, I thought he did really well.
I was actually really impressed with him. He's a television. He's done so much television, and I thought his subtleties were fantastic. He played that one scene where he's looking over Edmund and trying to determine whether or not he's guilty. Very subtle, very believable. I'm sitting there going, "That's how you do business, man. That's how you roll in that position."
And the flip of the switch. As soon as he heard the name of who Edmund was supposed to turn the letter over to.
Oh, you mean Clarion?
Yes, that one. He had to repeat it.
Can't forget that, because we basically turned to the audience to be like, "This will be important later."
Oh, okay. If you want to go that route.
Yeah. Well,
how many points in the movie? All of a sudden, the camera, got away from the actors that were speaking and just focused on one little thing, like the chess piece. Or the window. The window. You couldn't quite tell what was going on, and then all of a sudden, oh hey, that's Fernand or Guy Pearce. 80 to 100 yards away.
Yeah. Nobody has peripheral vision in movies. I mean, everybody knows that. Okay, so like I said, and some of that really obvious stuff. We're gonna hit that. All right, so Dagmara, Dominique, whatever, as Mercedes. I thought it was subtle.
Her.
It was subtle.
I liked her.
Yeah, just not easy on the eyes, but given a very, very flat character and given a lot to do with it.
I actually found myself caring more about her character than any of the others.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you think she was being kind of a prick on this play? She ran to the Count after Edmund was sent to jail.
She ran to him after she read the letter from the prosecutor guy.
Right.
Stating that Edmund had been executed.
Self-preservation, don't you think?
He had been executed.
Yep, which is fine. That's fine, but
the best friend. But later in the movie, it does explain better why she ran to him the way she did.
Because she got pregnant. Spoiler alert: she got pregnant.
Yes, and you couldn't be an unwed mom.
We're gonna hit historical consistencies with this because it's a joke.
So that part, I think it made sense to me. I was okay with that.
So now we got Michael Wincott in terms of playing Armand. Okay, and he's the offspring.
Yes.
Of what we come to find out as Edmond Dantes and Mercedes. And he's playing this kind of a prick, actually. I mean, he's this no appreciation teenage prick, and I guess there's not much more to say about that.
Yeah, he did well with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had Fernand as his father figure, so it's going to rub off on you.
Very noble. They show that one scene where he's in the catacombs and he's like, "Do your worst." I love that line.
Oh, that was great.
From the Count of Monte Cristo, and he gives that line, and his life is a storm and all that. I absolutely loved it. All right, and then Luis Guzman. I mean, I want to mention him only because he's in a good majority of this movie. Now, all I'm seeing is like gangsta and all of his other roles, but I thought he did a pretty good job. I know that the humor is supposed to be there, and it's inconsistent with a period piece. That's for sure.
Most definitely.
Let's go, and I think that's probably good for our principal characters and principal actors. I really want to get into sort of the blow by blow on this story. So we open up with text on the screen, time to read. And you know what? At least it wasn't that much, and at least it wasn't narrated.
Oh, no kidding.
It's like, what's that other one? Oh, yeah, Judge Dredd. We got James Earl Jones. It was a time of this and that, and the judges, and we're going to sit here and explain this for 5 minutes. I mean, it's ridiculous. But this was like one paragraph, not even a paragraph.
That was like 3 or 4 sentences.
So at least it's not narrated, and I want to get into the exposition of, particularly in the beginning of this movie. The exposition scenes are infuriating. They're practically looking at the camera and explaining what's going on. There's no need for this. So we've got a number of things, right? We've got the chess piece exposition. We've got, and then later on we've got the jailer's locking the door, and the guy's like, "Why'd you do that? He's not going there." "I don't know. Habit, I suppose." I don't need that. All you got to do is lock the damn door. I don't need him to justify why he's locking that door. And it's for no other reason than just to say he can't escape that way.
The whole movie felt like it was spelled out with Crayola, just in case you were curious or confused.
What makes me nuts about the chess piece is that, yes, it's a good film convention, right? Yes, you give it symbolism, it's something tangible that you can pass back to actually say something. Great, do that. Then why do you have Napoleon sitting there? So,
explain
movie,
the chess piece.
Tell me about the chess piece. God, that was dumb. That was dumb. And Edmund, or what's his name? Jim Caviezel? Yeah, he said that, well, it's just something we've done since childhood. He's explaining verbally what we know they're doing on screen. They pass it back and forth 3 times, which is what you're supposed to do in a movie, 3 times, and yet they're going to explain this right before they do it. Show, don't tell. That's going to be, yes, that's a thing you do in movies. Show, don't tell. Give me a break.
I think that's the biggest problem I have with this movie is that everything felt as if it was being forced. And by force I mean, in case you're too stupid to get what's going on, here, I'm going to draw it out for you and explain it. And it was at least 6 times in the movie. Again, I swear I remember having liked this movie when I first saw it way back in 2002. But watching it again, it was like, oh, wow, really?
I got to tell you, and even after all this, and I'm going to be tearing this thing apart every which way but sideways, but I still love this movie. Absolutely love this movie. Okay, so we got the Kings to You, and one of the things that cracked me up was Fernand takes a chess piece after the gendarmes, I think, the cops, the police. The French police.
Okay.
Go to arrest Edmund. So Fernand takes the chess piece, puts it in Edmund's shirt.
Oh.
Does he have pockets inside that shirt? Because later on, I'm not really sure how in 16 years he could have hung on to that chess piece in that shirt. But Yeah, that's just one of the many problems with that. I'd like to get into this because it's so glaringly obvious. Edmund is an idiot.
Yeah.
The character Edmund is an idiot. Is a adult idiot. Okay? Now, this is something I have a real problem with. He's got this stupid look on his face in the first half of the movie. Everything is, huh? What? Like with this childlike type of innocence. But the problem is, he's promoted to the captain of Ferion. How does that work?
It was only because he showed loyalty to the captain. He knew what needed to be done to save the captain's life. Because if you recall, the first mate pointed out, no, he should not have done this. Yeah, God.
Does a captain need to know how to read?
One would think.
Okay, no, this is glaring, and you know what? People out there, correct me if I'm wrong, write into flicksanddicks@gmail.com and say whether or not in the 1800s, mariners, captains, were required to be able to read and write.
Nobody else on the boat did.
I mean,
maybe the first mate, but nobody else on the boat did. But the captain
charts,
should.
navigations, anything.
Yes.
You have to be able to read and write. And so I don't think this was in the book. I think this was just something that they stuck in the movie. They can't read? Fuck you, he can't read.
If it wasn't in the book, it was thrown into the movie as a last nail in the coffin for Fernand to turn traitor on his best friend.
Yeah, that's right, because it's because the prosecutor Villefort, he's sitting there going, have you read this? He goes, no, I can't read. And every single time I watch that movie, I'm like, bullshit, he can't read. He's the captain. What are you talking about? He can't read. And then to really drive that home, he's in the cell with the Abbot Ferrer, and he's like, I'll teach you philosophy, economics, and he's like, to read and write, and he's like, of course, because you need to know how to do that to be captain of a goddamn merchant ship.
Or just to learn about economics and philosophy and whatnot, yeah.
He's supposed to be this uneducated, and my question is, and correct me kids if I'm wrong, at the very least, he needs to be able to read and write. To be a captain of anything. To be first mate of anything. These are commissioned positions. I mean, these are skilled positions. And my big question is, in 1800s, did you need to know how to do that to captain a ship?
Apparently not.
I guess not. Which is
Edmund could not.
I don't buy it. I can't fucking buy that. There's no way. So we get... He comes off the ship, and they get into port in Marseille. And, okay, so they come back off, because in essence they were trying to put into the island where they're holding Napoleon. Because Napoleon was overthrown as emperor, and the English were guarding him. But there was enough of a gentleman's agreement they could get on shore, because their captain had contracted brain fever, and they were trying to save his life. And that's where you have that first sequence and the action scene and all this. And this is where we establish that Fernand and Edmund are friends, and the stupid chess piece thing.
And don't forget that Napoleon still runs shit on that island.
Does
Even
he run stuff, or is
guarded,
there like...
He was being held captive, guarded, whatever, by the Brits. But then...
His rank is acknowledged by the British.
Yes.
But he's still a captor. He's still a captive. All right. So yes, he gets proper treatment for that per the rules of war or whatever, because you're supposed to be treated according to your rank. So the captain dies, but the first plot point is that Napoleon uses that to get a letter to a trusted friend. This is where Edmund's an idiot. Okay, and throughout the rest of the movie, Edmund's like, "What's my crime? What's my crime?" The crime is that you smuggled a letter from. Even at the time, he's like, I don't think I can do this. And Napoleon's like, no, I promise.
His crime was simply that he's an idiot.
He's an idiot. His character is so dumb. Okay.
It was painful.
Obviously, it was communications to agents in France of where he is and how to get him out and when the guards are posted and all that. So, Edmund smuggles this letter, but his buddy. Fernand sees him do it, so he kind of puts that in his back pocket to be used later. And they get back to Marseille, and the owner of the shipping company, which is I forget his name anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the owner of shipping. He's so impressed with Edmund trying to save the captain's life that they sit Danglars, the current first mate, and Edmund down, and he kind of chastises Danglars and says, "This should have been your idea to put into port." And he, in essence, promotes Edmund to captain, and Danglars stays as first mate.
Yes.
So Danglars is pissed over that. He says, "You're now the captain." And even the look in Edmund's face is like sitting there going, "Why would you make me captain?" I'm kind of a moron, you see. God, he is a moron. And so this guy, who happens to be the father of the chief prosecutor, or what will end up being chief prosecutor, Villefort, he says, "Did anyone get into the island?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can I ask who's called on him?" "Clarion." Oh, he stops, turns to the camera and says, "Clarion. I'm Clarion," in case this is important later.
Well, you had to slow it down for everybody.
Oh, we really slowed it down. We pulled out that easel and that chart, and we went right over at the finer points of what that
Crayolas.
was. With Crayolas, that's right. So Fernand's trying to hit on Mercedes while Edmund's getting the talking to by the...
He wasn't hitting on her. He flat out said, "I want to fuck you."
Yeah, he says, "Sleep with me." And she's like, "Oh, you silly boy, will you ever give up?" These are
know
friends.
You're the best friend of my fiance, but this is okay. We can still lay here together and discuss, lives and futures. It's okay.
And she's like, "I know what you want. You just want what Edmund's got, because Edmund's a happy person and you're not." That's basically it.
But that had to be established. That had to be pointed out, because if it weren't for her pointing out that, the whistle, even though he had a pony and Edmund had a whistle, Edmund was just so much happier with his whistle than Fernand with his pony.
His whistle.
And that had
Edmund
to be
is a moron. Yes, I could actually see Edmund being happy with his whistle than the other guy with his fucking pony. Jesus. Okay, so eventually... So they do the whole "kings to me, kings to you," and he says, "You're still the best man." And he's like, "I know, I'm your friend, but yep, I know, I'm the best man. Later, bitches, I'm out." So he takes his handle of rum or whatever it is.
Which, all of that, it's still just furthered, Edmund being an idiot. You've got this guy who's supposed to be your best friend. Just, you've got to be, not just an idiot, but blind as well to not see, flirting with your woman. You're off hiding on a rock somewhere.
We can't overstate the blind, deaf, and dumb on this one.
Oh, wow.
We can't overstate it.
Yeah.
So, yes, now Mercedes and Edmund are alone, and they get to fucking. Now, obviously they get to fucking because this is the last time they're alone together.
Of course.
So, we know that a child is conceived later on in the movie, so they go swimming, and we see a very beautiful shot, actually.
It was very Blue Lagoon-esque.
Absolutely, and it was beautifully shot. There's like 3 shots in this movie. I'm sitting there going, "Holy damn, the cinematographer is going nuts on this." But beautifully shot, and you know to get to fucking, but... This comes up another huge eye roller for me. He says, "We can't get married till I get my captain's papers." And he says, "Now that I can be captain, we can get married now." She goes, "And then I can afford a ring." And she says, "I don't need a ring. I've got this piece of string that I just yanked off my dress."
Okay, no, that wasn't the eye roll moment.
Really?
No, I just thought that, I saw that as just, sweet, romantic, lovey-dovey kind of crap. But... 15 years later, when she shows him the string on her finger still, it looks as if she just ripped it off her dress and wrapped it around her finger.
This thing would have disintegrated after the first bath.
It was string for 15 years.
So let's talk about the sentimentality of these 2 tokens that they have. One person's got a chest piece he's managed to hang on to in his shirt, his very loose-fitting potato sack shirt, and the other one has a piece of string that she yanked off of her dress and put on her finger, and she said she never took it off. My ass.
How did the chess piece survive his swim across the bay?
How did chess piece survive a lot of things? Yeah, so really, so a fucking piece of string for years. Yeah, that's a good one. Well done, guys. So the scenes leading up to Edmund being incarcerated are a little bizarre. Each is about 10 seconds long, and it's a whirlwind. And the funny things about these scenes leading up to that are they're probably about 15 seconds long, and every single one of these scenes has a cliche. An absolute cliche in there. So it's got about three lines, and each one of them is a cliche. So we've got the captain dies, Napoleon gives him the note, Mondego sees it, they get back, fucks Mercedes, Mondego tells Danglars about the note, bang, Edmund's arrested. Holy shit, producers, have you ever heard about the economy of a scene? You combine 3 of these scenes into one and quit explaining everything. And I got a note here that says, fuck you, he can't read. Okay, I do want to talk about the performance of the Chief Magistrate's Villefort. It's actually a pleasure to watch. He's like I said, he's a big television actor, and he actually looks quite at home. He calls Dantes an idiot. He says, God knows how you're going to survive in this world, but you're no traitor.
That's right.
He basically calls him an idiot.
That's right, yes.
So, a chief magistrate, a complete stranger as far as he's concerned, calls him an idiot.
Calls him an idiot.
The audience thinks he's an idiot. It's like, are we actually sympathizing with this guy? We all think he's an idiot, yet he's the captain of the Pharaon.
Again, back to the idiot. When he hears his dad's name and says, oh, no, okay, I got to burn this letter and I can't let Edmund on the loose. He says, take my personal carriage. It's in the back.
Oh, right after he's like, wait a minute.
Right after he tells me he's an idiot.
Yeah. He says, who called on you? He says, a Clarion. The guy flips the fuck out and then says, you know what? I'm going to give you my personal carriage.
For the troubles.
For the troubles, yeah. It's back here behind the back door in the dark alley.
And since that didn't give it away, that didn't give anything away, but when he's walking up to the carriage and it's covered in bars.
It's covered in bars, yeah, that's awesome.
And there's a jailer opening the carriage.
So my first question, as Edmund, if I had a brain, I'd be like, you take this home every day? I thought your position more into a little more posh mode of transportation. Really, this big box with bars on it.
Personal carriage is covered in bars. That gave nothing away, and he gets in, and it doesn't dawn on him until shortly after.
And you hear this bang, clank, clank of locks, and it's like, hey, wait a minute.
Villefort.
I'm allowed to go. What's my crime? What's my crime?
You're an idiot.
You're an idiot. You smuggled a piece of correspondence from Napoleon. That's your crime. If you ever have any question about that throughout this whole movie, that's what it was. Moron. Okay, so Edmund's family goes to plead the case for him, but Villefort is scurrying around and shitting his pants. And basically he's shitting his pants because recent news got to him that Napoleon got off the island and is now marching on Paris. So Villefort comes in his office. He's like, "Holy shit! Get my paperwork together, blah blah blah, and tell that idiot ledger tell that idiot clerk to give you a ledger." And then Edmund's family, Mercedes and Mondego, are all in the room, and Mondego and Villefort have got this subtle communication going back and forth, but I thought it was pretty good. And all of a sudden, now he's got time to sit and talk about this. So he's scurrying around freaking the fuck out, and then he's like, oh, wait, we're talking about Edmund?
Okay, again, that part, yeah, he had time for that because he was plotting the murder of his father. With his dad out of the way, with the prosecutor's dad out of the way,
right?
He was able to,
Oh, do you mean Monsieur Clarion?
Oh yes, Clarion.
Clarion.
he was able
Do you get
to
it? Do you get it?
move on in life. With his dad dead, he just couldn't do it himself. But with his dad dead, shit wasn't as bad.
Right.
So yeah, that, okay, I'll buy that, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's given that I'm all right with that. Yeah, so he's got the silent code with Fernand, and I really like that exchange. They were using eyes and very subtle head movements, which I think spoke to Guy Pearce's performance.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, and this guy's that actor. The James Frayne, television actor, very subtle performance for a television actor. He's done nothing but television. I mean, he's done a few films here and there, but yeah, really subtle performance.
Nothing major, but no, they both did amazing jobs.
Yeah, and that seems
certain points.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'd probably come back to this is a lot of direction here.
Yeah.
The script, saying some of these lines must have been absolute pain.
Who was the director for this movie again?
It was...
exactly. Exactly.
Let's see, Kevin Reynolds. Yeah, again,
exactly.
Television director. Yeah. So, the interesting thing while we're going through this movie is that let me see, we said that The Three Musketeers, who has got... similar direction made by Disney and one of the actors who also plays the jailer in this one. So the Three Musketeers was, what did we say, 92?
93, I think.
92, 93. And this one came out in 02.
Yes.
But I think they were going for the same pace and style. So it's got these contemporary type of colloquialisms and phrases and stuff, which I got no fucking time for. No time for that. It's a period piece with you're trying to do these funny little modern day quips. You can keep it. I cannot stand that.
I like action movies. I do. I like the quips, that they throw out in movies. And if you want to bring some, modernization to it, that's fine. Go for it. But you've got to make it mesh. It's got to work, and nothing about this works.
I think the Three Musketeers made it work a little bit more, and I'm not really sure. I can't really drill down why it worked so much better. Maybe it's just because they're being delivered by frickin',
Kiefer
Sutherland and those guys.
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. So, but this one, these are very, very... They're not generic actors, but they're definitely not as exposed. Not overexposed. They're very subtle actors. So you're going for a genuine feel of the time, and you're going for another adaptation of Alexander Dumas.
The movie, it misrepresented itself throughout. It really did.
Yeah.
You were expecting a period piece at one point, and then you're getting Goonies.
You are getting Goonies.
You're expecting a period piece, and then you're thinking Three Musketeers. I understand what they were going for, the goal they were trying to achieve there.
They were doing a lot of that self-aware bullshit in the 90s, but that was the 90s. The problem with that is this was 2002. Okay, I mean the self-aware stuff with fucking Dawson's Creek and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that. And this movie's obviously going for the same thing. We had when Edmund is thrown off the cliff. And he murders the warden,
yes.
Which he does murder him.
Yes, he does.
That's total murder. And the guys are like, we could have handled
that better.
God. And then he's getting into a knife fight with Jacopo, and he's the main pirate's like, he's the best knife fighter I've ever seen. He's like, you should get out more. Okay, thank you so much for that.
I saw the majority of the quips in this movie. Kind of like your gratuitous sex scene in a movie that wasn't necessary.
Nice.
But they threw it in anyway, just for the sake of having it.
There's another one of these that I got a real problem with. It's later on in the movie, and Edmund's getting into his carriage, and Mercedes was in there. And so, he basically says, get out of my carriage, go home, all this stuff. He points to Jacopo and tells him to get in the carriage because he's going to fucking let him have it, right?
Yes.
And Jacopo says, I understand that you are mad. And he's like, mad? My plan's falling into place. And he goes, mad for not seeing what's in front of you or something like that.
Yes.
It's like, whoa. You can't do that. Okay? You're talking about one version of mad and the other version of mad in the exact same sentence. Fuck you for that. That is a phrase that wasn't even applicable at that time. And you can't use both of them. You can either do one or the other. You can't say mad in terms of crazy and then mad, I'm mad. Nope. You can't do that. That's just screenwriting bullshit. That's lazy writing. And it's almost like the writer was like, I just can't let this go.
Okay, but see, I was more okay with that than most of the other crap in the movie.
Oh, that's horseshit. No. That line right there, I'm like, fuck you. I know what you're doing. And you're just sitting there going, yep, it's snappy. I just want to make this, squeeze this into the screen.
But for the rest of the film, did it not work? I mean, come on. When the warden gets murdered, and how they witnessed that from so far up and dark on top of it, but yet they still were able to discern who it was, that survived, and obviously the warden was dead, and for them to say, we could have handled that better.
When I first watched that movie, I watched it when it first came out. I watched it in the theaters, and it got a legitimate laugh out of me. But then as I started watching these over and over again, it always bugged me. I'm like, you're really taking me out of this world since they're trying so hard to put me into this world, into the environment of the period.
I was ready to get out of that world the moment that it started.
Do you know what's funny how you say that? And we've been talking about how the character of Edmund's being portrayed as kind of a moron, and we have critiques of this film. There's about 3 or 4 very, very distinct points in the movie where the movie's almost calling it out on its own bullshit. Okay, so I just wanted to go through a couple of these. These are actually kind of funny. All right, so first of all, when the priest is teaching Edmund, he's training him in weaponry and all this stuff. So now we got the Karate Kid thing going on with the water, the dripping water. Swipe your hand, and so Edmund practically rolls his eyes, and he's like, "This is ridiculous." Yes, it is, Edmund. It is ridiculous. Thank you for pointing that out as well. And then we've got the response to Mercedes' stupid-ass question of whether or not he suffered in prison. So towards the end of the movie, this is hilarious. And she's like, where have you been? Where have you been? He's like, 13 years at Chateau d'If. She goes, 13 years, did you suffer? And he looks at her like, what, are you fucking serious?
You dumb bitch.
What?
Yes.
What do you think? He's practically telling the movie, what the fuck why are you asking me this stupid question?
What about Jacopo when he sees Edmond sleeping and he sees all the scars on his back?
That's the point I had. Point number 4.
Oh, did that hurt?
And then
no, you cocksucker. It felt great. I have so many because I kept going back asking for more.
Yeah, he totally rolls his eyes again. The actor's just like, I can't believe this question is being asked. What do you think? I'm sleeping on the floor and I've got all these scars. No, it didn't tickle, dumb shit. And then of course there's the obvious, Jacopo, says, what do you want to do first? We got all this money, we got all this treasure. What do you want to do first? He's like, revenge. He's like, okay, good, revenge. Let's go kill these people, and then we spend the treasure.
Okay, that I thought was great though. When Jacopo goes, just what was it?
Why not just kill them?
I'll be back by week's end. I'll hop
bang,
on
bang,
a boat,
bang, bang.
over, bang, bang, bang. I'll be back before the week's end.
How is this a bad plan? So 4 points in the whole movie where the movie's just like, yeah, it's kind of pointing out its own stupid script. And it is a stupid script. All right, so we've gone back and forth about how Edmund's a dumbass.
Yes.
Okay. And yes, we've said this a number of times, and I don't think this is the last time we're going to say it. But this is the point where the Abbe Ferrer and Edmund are sitting in the jail cell, okay? And they're trying to figure out how it was that Edmund came to be, in his situation. So even though Edmund can fight, he's still a dumbass. So why did it take Edmund so long to figure out it was Clarion? And so the priest is like, okay, let's just sit down and we're gonna work this shit out. So he's like, I get to lay down. So they're really puzzle piecing this stuff together, and he says, so what'd you say to him? What'd the prosecutor say to you? And so he burned the letter. Why did he burn the letter? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, it must have been an acquaintance or something like that. And I'm sitting there going, why is it taking him so long to get to this point of the conclusion?
I just thought it was really humorous because it was almost as if, what's his name, Abe?
He's an Abbey. He's a priest.
Yes.
Yeah.
He seemed to have figured it out, like, a long time.
He's just letting Edmund get to it.
Yeah, he was waiting for Edmund to finally have that realization. Yeah.
So my question is 16 years long enough to not be an idiot anymore? I mean, how much education can you get? I understand it's like 24/7 education and you got nothing else to do. But you are seriously a childlike moron in the first half of the movie.
They did have other stuff to do because they were tunneling out.
That's right. Are they practicing not being such a moronic baby man that whole time too?
Well, the movie kind of points out that every character is an absolute moron. And you pointed out your problems, your issues with this film. The most glaring in my mind was the simple fact that, according to the director, according to the movie people, all you have to do, kind of like your old superhero TV shows and movies, just put that tiny little black mask or black makeup around your eyes, and suddenly you're
you're invisible. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, all you got to do is don a mustache and goatee, and no one who has known you their entire life will recognize you.
Except for Mercedes.
She was the only one.
She's the only one
that recognized him for who he is, who he was.
He's wearing different clothes. He's in a different socioeconomic class. He's got facial hair, and I think his hair is actually the same length. It's the same color. He looks a little more gaunt, I suppose.
It was his hair was done, I guess. Handed him a brush or something. But having facial hair makes you totally unrecognizable, even to those that have known you their entire lives. I couldn't get past that at all. It was painful to watch. Any scene where Edmund was with Mercedes, but she did recognize him, but started to believe, okay, maybe I'm wrong.
I actually thought that was handled really well.
Fernand, okay, they've known each other since they were small children.
Yeah, but she recognized him immediately. Like, she turns and looks at him and is like, bam, that's fucking Fernand.
So she turned around, she saw him, and...
Or not Fernand. Edmund. Yeah.
She recognized him, but started to believe later that maybe I was wrong.
And so, of course, he does that slip up later, and he's like, Edmund Dantes is dead, and then she's like, no, it's you. I always liked...
Said Dantes.
The name I had never said. Later on, when she's sitting there just like, are you fucking with me right now? Are you what are you? Are you a spirit just sent to torture me? And he's just like, no, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not this guy. I'm only thinking about your reputation, blah, 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 blah. So Fernand doesn't recognize him. Nobody recognizes his past boss doesn't recognize him, but Mercedes immediately. And I really like some of those scenes between the two when it comes just to that.
If it weren't for her character in this movie, I think I would have just hated the entire flick.
But some of those shots, even that shot with when they were in his bedroom later on, nice lighting. Beautiful lighting.
Yeah, it was.
And so that's one of those ask your questions, and she's like, where have you been? He's like, I've been in Chateau d'If. And then, of course, we mentioned earlier, did you suffer? Okay, you know what, Mercedes? I was kind of thinking you were just a bitch. Maybe I was even considering that I might get back together, but it turns out you're just a moron, too.
You're so an idiot as I am.
I used to be a moron, and now I've come around. I'm educated now and much more calculating and conniving, and I know history, economics, and weaponry. Yeah. So, also, I guess I also had a confusion. Towards the beginning of the movie, Edmund and Fernand are dueling, basically. And
Yes.
Edmund's just kind of fumbling all over himself because he didn't know anything about the sword. The gendarmes were right outside. They're in the house. Are they just watching them fight just as a matter of honor?
I thought at that point they were just on their way.
No, they're in the house. They're just watching him.
I guess I missed that part. I totally thought they were just on their way.
Yeah, that was kind of...
It was a big house.
Oh, yeah. You get lost in there. It's like, oh, those are two guys dueling in there. We should probably just leave them alone. So let's kind of get back a little bit to how Prosecutor Villefort and Fernand kind of get together in cahoots with setting Edmund up, which still seems really strange on why that's such a motivation. So the line goes, "How's your father?" And Fernand goes, "Alive, unfortunately." And he says, "We share the same misfortune." I think Villefort is really counting on Fernand to respond that way. I mean, what would happen if Fernand says, "Oh, my father's fine. How's yours?" And then where is he going to go? He's going to be like, well, I was actually going to ask you to kill my father, but now this is awkward.
At that point, there was really nothing to lose. I mean, because it was already discerned that he was willing to send his best friend, since forever, off to rot in some hellhole on an island somewhere, just because dude wanted his woman.
That's it?
That was it.
All right, so Danglars. So let's pick apart this thing a little bit. We know that Villefort needs his father murdered because he's an ambitious civil servant. That's what he said, and that we get that.
And
so he needs somebody to kill him.
Yes.
So who kills him? Fernand. Why does Fernand do it? Because he owes Villefort one for Villefort putting Edmund away. Right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Danglars just is pissed off that Edmund got the captainship.
He's just a mean, hateful bastard. He didn't really have, any
weak,
ulterior motives. It works. I mean, you don't always have to have some crazy, ulterior motive, or whatever, just to be a mean person. Sometimes people are just mean, and this character was just one of those mean sons of bitches. And
the tapestry of all these motivations kind of coming together, I buy for the most part, as long as nobody's talking and the screenplay has nothing to do with it. Just the story. The story behind the screenplay is just atrocious.
All right, Danglars was really pissed off. I mean, he's an older guy. Clearly, he'd put his time in as first mate. He felt that he should have been next in line to be captain when the previous captain kicked off.
That's kind of setting yourself up for a hostile work environment, don't you think? If you're the owner of a shipping company, I mean, you're really kind of making a really stressful situation here.
Did it seem to bother him?
No, but he claimed to care about Edmund as a son, as he said later.
Well, Edmund, yes, but not Danglars.
Yeah.
He just didn't give a shit about Danglars.
Does that make for a peaceful and amiable working environment? Absolutely not. No. I think that's a bad move on from a managerial aspect.
Most definitely. If we were, running a deal or trying to teach a deal on how to run a business, then, we would definitely get into that. But dude was just a mean, hateful bastard who felt like he had been passed over and was willing to go to any lengths or extremes to make the person that got his spot, I guess, pay.
So we're gonna go forward here as Edmund is setting up everyone that he's getting revenge on, and then everything's falling into place. Danglars gets arrested for trying to steal the gold, and the Prosecutor Villefort is set up so that he makes this public confession. Very TV, by the way.
It was so contrived. It was so rushed. I mean, we what was it? Edmond said we need to study them.
Study their weaknesses, blah, blah, blah.
And
the execution of it is all done in one sequence.
Apparently, Villefort's weakness was he liked to go to the bathhouse and hang out for a while.
That's pretty good investigation. I mean, did you do that work yourself, or did you send Jacopo, or did you just
apparently all of that research and investigative whatever was done in like a night?
It was done in a night.
It was
all of this downfall of all these guys was done in a night.
Everything was so rushed. We need to study them. but we have to have it by 8 o'clock tonight.
Exactly. And you know what's actually weird about this? He's pissed off at Jacopo earlier for setting him up with Mercedes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, Jacopo's like, I'll drive you home. He's like, I'll walk. Wait a minute. Hold on. What do you mean he'll walk? This is when he's walking. This is when he's doing all the things to everybody else in the same night. Was this an afterthought? He's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take care of this shit myself. Tonight. What? Just all in one night. I understand timing might be a crucial element here, but the movie portrays him as if I'll walk like, I don't want to be around right now. The sight of you makes me sick because I'm so pissed off at you. I'm going to go walk. Oh, by the way, I'm also going to go ahead and put the machinery of revenge into motion here tonight.
I'm going to ruin 3 lives.
3 lives.
Tonight, while I'm walking the 50 miles from this chateau to mine.
Fuck you, movie. Do you know what? I do have to hand this to the movie. So, Fernand comes home, and this is the morning after the downfall of everyone, basically.
Oh.
He comes home, and Mercedes comes home after she just got done fucking Edmund.
And packing up everybody's shit.
She's basically getting in his face. He had already, earlier in the movie, established that she's completely a piece of property. She's a woman in a man's world. And this is the period in which we're dealing with this. But she's like, I'm not going with you, man. And that kid's not your son. And this and that. Kudos to the movie for not slapping her in the face. I totally thought, I've seen this movie 16 times. I totally think every single time that Fernand's just totally going to just haul off and smack her in the face. And he never does.
He didn't care. He did, but not enough to do anything about it. I mean,
he's
that was
pissed in that scene.
Oh, he's definitely pissed.
I mean, he's so pissed. He's not even packing anymore. He just grabs his alcohol. It's like, what?
He walked to the window. He walked to the window. Well, no, what was it? He threw. When she said, "I'm not going with you," he threw something through the mirror, and then he stood there like looking out the window.
He doesn't throw it at her. No. He doesn't even throw it near her. He just throws it out the mirror, just throwing a temper tantrum.
But earlier when she addresses or acknowledges, yes, you're having affairs, you're sleeping around, whatever, and he goes, oh, gets kind of quiet, starts walking up the stairs, and he goes, but it is such a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Oh, the one earlier?
Yeah.
He's like, it's actually kind of liberating.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, liberating.
Because the way they and I know this is probably from a modern perspective. Well, that doesn't stop this movie, but yeah, earlier in the scene where Albert wants to go to Carnival in Rome, and she's like, "No, you can't go. You're with no chaperone." And he's like, "Yeah, go." And then even Albert is like, "Hey, cool, thanks," and he doesn't give a shit what his mom says.
Nope.
Nobody cares what her opinion is or anything. She's dismissed right and left, so she's obviously not held in any kind of regard. In terms of this caste system.
Because she's a woman, number one.
Yeah.
And her family wasn't of any note,
As he said, we brought her up from a fishmonger's daughter.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, you know what? Total kudos for not hauling off and slapping her in the face. I'm not saying I would have in the same situation. I'm definitely not going there. I'm just saying... For what the movie is, for the period in which it's portrayed, they could have totally gotten away with it. And so, huge kudos. And it's, Disney films, are we not doing that in Disney? This is a Disney film, right? I'm pretty sure it was a Disney film.
I don't think so.
Oh, I could be completely wrong on that. All right. Oh, here we go. Fuck you, movie. You've only got one shot. This line bothered me from the very first time I watched this movie in the theater. I'm like, well, it's a powder pistol. Of course you've got one shot. As opposed to what? The 6-shooter? Did they have 6-shooters at that time?
He had to point out that there were 3 of them.
Yes.
On the other end of that gun.
Yes.
And who's he going to kill? You can shoot it at me, but then you've got these two, or you can shoot at her, but then you've got us two, or you can shoot at him, and then you've got.
Do you know how I guess we need to kind of set up what I'm talking about. We're talking about that scene towards the end, right?
Where Fernand discovered that it was sand in the trunks
at the end of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. So Mercedes is there, Albert's there, and he's basically told Edmund's your father, not Fernand.
Yes.
Okay. So Fernand's got a pistol. What do you call it? It's a
musket.
It's
no,
not
it's a rifle.
No, it's a powder. It's a flash powder. There's a term for it.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's one of those, and so he's got pointed, and they even show the scenes where he's packing it in the muzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's pointing at him, and so Edmund looks at him and he says, "You've only got one shot, and it's going to take more than that to stop me." And I thought that was for our benefit. I totally thought the movie was like, do you know, he's only got one shot with this because this is the time period in which they didn't have machine guns.
No,
and
I totally forgot about that line. He was just telling him, give it your best shot here because it's going to take more than what you got in that gun to stop me. Because his anger, his hatred of him was was enough to carry him over.
This sounded like a screenwriter explaining to me that in that time frame, those pistols could only shoot once. Now, would that be obvious to someone who's living in that time period?
Honestly, I didn't get that from that scene. I had other problems with the scene.
My thing is, you don't point out things that are commonplace. For the period of the movie, you don't need to explain things that are commonplace. It's almost like if the actor was saying, "Oh, I'm only going to be able to get 30 miles in a couple of hours because I've got a horse and carriage as opposed to a car." Yeah, I know that. Because it's a period movie, you've got a horse and carriage. As opposed to what? A jet? A spaceship? No, we know this. Ah, that's infuriating. This is speaking. Most of my infuriating remarks here are totally centered around the screenplay. Because, at the very end, we've got probably what I hate most in every single movie that's got this.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Yep.
Let's go home.
Let's go home.
Yeah.
Instead of putting the end on the movie, they say, "Let's go home." That ending scene is completely unnecessary. Of them standing on the cliffs of Chateau d'If. Completely unnecessary.
Okay.
They could have ended that with them, with Albert going out in the field and kneeling like confused because his father's kind of dead, but he's not really his father anyway. They could have ended it right there. That's where they should have ended the movie.
The problem I had with the end of the movie, way more so than the "let's go home," was the bit about they're coming out of Chateau d'If. And he goes, "Well, I originally bought this place with the plans to tear it down, but now I realize what I really truly want most in life is walking off this island with me."
The most generic dribble I've ever heard.
It was. I know I've said it probably way too many times. But this movie was really painful for me from beginning to end.
I still love it. I don't know what to say.
The most exciting part of this movie for me was the beginning, where for a moment I thought I was watching Goonies. Other than that, the movie it really was just painful for me anyway to watch.
But yeah, let's go home.
It was 2 hours. With credits, it's like 2 hours and 11 minutes. It was like an hour and a half too long.
Yeah.
It could have been done, TV show wise. It could have been done, you're presented with a problem, within the first 5 minutes, and you spend the next 15 minutes, trying to delve in further into the problem, and then you've got the problem solved in the next 5 minutes, and then you got 5 minutes for commercials. And you could have had everything solved and taken care of, and life back to normal, everything hunky-dory, in 30 minutes.
Yeah, what was the running time on this? 131 minutes. That's 10 minutes past 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's about the same length as Star Wars. Wow.
It was a painful 2 hours for me.
And when you compare this to The Three Musketeers, which I think was a much better movie and much more entertaining, even with Tim Curry just chewing that fucking scenery, man. Tim Curry was just all over that thing.
Tim Curry's just amazing through and through.
Oh, that guy. It can be arranged! Wow, dude. Wow. I think he's probably the only person who can get away with that shit. And you didn't have actors or characters like that in this one, which I think this one was trying to be Three Musketeers.
There was really nothing memorable about this movie.
Some nice shots, but yeah, it was falling into all the classic 90s trap type of stuff. The self-aware bullshit and the... even the fight choreography. Oh, it was all fight choreography.
I was waiting
This is
to
right
get
after.
into some meat and potatoes where he goes, okay, we've got to study them, learn their weaknesses and all that. And I was like, okay, cool, it's going to get good, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then it just jumped straight to, okay, I know everything there is to know about you now. Now I'm going to bring about your ruin.
All right.
They skipped over everything.
So this is probably come to the point where, I mean, I guess I don't really have to ask you. I mean, are you recommending this movie?
Oh, God.
No.
No.
I like it, especially if you're if you're a fan of Alexander Dumas. I mean, with this and Three Musketeers, and I think it's a fair representation of the book. It takes a ton of liberties, but what novel adaptation doesn't?
Okay, I happen to be a huge fan of bad movies. I really do love B movies. But this one, it tried to take itself too seriously, but then it didn't.
But then all of a sudden it just turned around and not.
And
yeah.
then it didn't. And it just seemed confused and lost from beginning to end. From Goonies to Three Musketeers to Let's Go Home.
Let's Go Home. Oh, God. So this movie's got a 7.7 ranking on IMDb, which I think is probably normal. I've noticed that the movies that are a lot of fun but not as mainstream are getting similar scores like that with fairly mixed reviews. People like the movie, but they acknowledge its faults, that's for sure. And probably a lot with what we're saying. So... And that was the Count of Monte Cristo, directed by Kevin Reynolds in 2002.
TV guy.
some TV director. All right. Until next week, I'm Travis.
I'm Mike.
Take it easy.